Welcome everyone, I'm Blake from Seelbach, and we're back for our second edition of the video weekly review. So as most of you know, we send out an email every Sunday with kind of what's coming the next week and what has been released, all that fun stuff here at Seelbach. But wanted to start including some videos as well, just to give a little more context, a little more background, and dive a little bit deeper into some of these releases we're doing each week. So joined with Brian. Brian, how's it going?
Great. I'm looking forward to the releases this week. I know we said it last week, but man, September is stacked for us. So,
yes, September is definitely stacked, and we're reviewing the week of September 7th. We're recording this a little bit early because we're headed to KBF, so still a few fun things to shake out. But I'm just going to go ahead and assume that everything went great the rest of the week, and there's just a lot of good picks happening right now. And as we were doing this morning, it really comes down to, can we fit everything in? There's a lot of different barrel picks, a lot of cool releases. And so I'm excited to jump into this week. So let's start it off. First, we're back. Obviously we're celebrating Bourbon Heritage Month. One of our favorite bourbons, really in general, but especially when we're talking about stuff that's truly craft, truly heritage, or truly, outside of those big heritage distilleries and outside of the state of Kentucky, and that would be Highwire Distilling and that would be Highwire Distilling in Charleston, South Carolina. But with this one, you may remember we did a couple barrel picks a few weeks ago, and those were just two different farms where the Jimmy Red corn came from, side by side. Really great bourbon. This time we have another cab finish barrel. So these were finished in Matthias red wine barrels. They are, let's see, in total, if we're doing the math right, they were in these finished in the Cabernet barrels for almost 4 years. So it's like 6 years, 8 months. And you may remember we did one of these, I think it was early this year, but there's just something about, that Jimmy Red corn. It typically has a lot of earthy notes, some really good depth and sweetness. And then when it ages in that red wine barrel, man, I picked this barrel at the distillery with David Jennings, friend of Seelbach. We did these in Charleston back in May, and this one just stood out. They didn't have a lot of these, and whenever I realized one of the red wine finishes was still available, we definitely grabbed it. But I was nosing the sample this morning. Just a lot of red fruit, a lot of stone fruit, but you still get some of that. Oh man, it's not like earthiness, but just a little bit of grassiness, a little bit of sweetness, almost like a dried date note in there. Really fantastic barrel. I think it's gonna be one that moves fast. So excited to see.
Yeah, and if there's folks who may not remember, or they may not have been on the list, but we did one of these cab finish barrels in May, I believe, and I don't recall if it even made it out of pro. If it did, I don't know that there were very many of that. And again, you already said that this is one of the great craft brands, but we've had a tear of releases from Highwire, and specifically Jimmy Red, last year and this year. I mean, these were hitting some of my favorites in craft list. We had the weeded that we've had the double oak that had some really good response, the single barrels that you've mentioned, and again, this cab, just big fruitiness. And I think I remember that last one that I had mentioned, that it even almost reminded me of Kelvin barrel a little bit because of how powerful it was. Is this one going to have some of that, or is it going to be a little bit different?
No, it has a lot of that, and I think that's what I liked most about them. There were some variances, just because of how long it'd been in the barrel, but with the Kelvin, I think of just good dark chocolate notes. Some of that's in there. It's just really complex. There's a lot going on in the whiskey between, the Jimmy Red corn and just how long it's been in that finishing barrel. And it was made on, we should also mention Highwire has, they switched to a column still back in around 2020. This is still on the old large pot still that they used. So I feel like just a lot of just that viscous and those really refined notes come through on this whiskey.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one for sure.
Not to spend all the time on that one because we got a big week we got to get through. So next up, one that people will be pretty excited to see. We haven't had anything from them in a while, and it probably leads into a follow-up question, is Wool's Whiskey is re-releasing their Willet collab. I believe this is the third time they've done a collaboration with Willet, where they've taken some of Willet's rye, So Kentucky rye, blended it with Indiana rye. If you talk about packaging alone, I think Wolves is probably one of the best in the game. And anything Willet is bound to fly. And you've tasted this one, and then they also have their 5-year single malt as well. What'd you think of these whenever you got a chance to try them?
Yeah, so I'll hold these both up. What's interesting about this one, for anyone who remembers the old packaging, it did say Wolves in collaboration with Willet. See if I can get the camera to actually focus here. It's trying to get my face. This one just says Wolves and Willet. So a little bit different on that here. The other ones, I don't recall if they were age dated, but even if they were, I know the age that they used for the blends were lower. This one is age dated, 10 years old. It's 103 proof rye, and I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy this product. It's unique, and I think I was thinking that maybe this would have that sort of hopped kind of thing that they've done before, but when I was looking at it, I don't think it actually does. I think this is blended Willet rye with some of the Wolves 95.5 rye.
Correct. I don't think there's
10
any of
years
the
old.
hopped whiskey in this.
Yeah. And so this is, again, it's 10-year age dated, 103 proof. That drinks much bigger than that. It's very, very unique in its flavor. And I think a lot of people are really going to dig it, whether they have, they're on to Willet or they're on to the Wolves projects, I should say, from the past or not. But I will tell you, not to like quickly change, the thing I think surprised me the most was the Wolves 5-year American single malt. So that's this one right here. And I had said it to you, and I'll probably have a video about this as well. I find it funny because last year everyone was like, American single malt's been recognized. This is a huge thing for the category because there wasn't like definition of what an American single malt should follow. And maybe it's just us, but I also don't think we've had very many American single malts come through the site this year. So and it wasn't until trying this that I was like, hold on, where'd they go?
Yeah.
Where'd they go? But this is it's a 5-year American single malt. It was in California wine barrels under the Arizona heat before being blended and finished in cognac casks. And to me, while not being a very big Scotch drinker, admittedly, anyone who's listened to me talk knows that that's true. It definitely has some of the tells that I would, associate generally with like a Highlands type Scotch. It's got those lighter, more delicate notes, a little bit of the floral type notes, a little bit of the honey and the caramel and the stone fruit and apple, with the viscosity that generally comes in American single malts that's more traditional to just American whiskey. And so I was a really big fan of this. It moved from those notes that I just mentioned into more darker, raspberry, fig, all of that. A little bit spiced. The barrel influence is definitely there. It gets juicy and jammy. And again, for an ASM, very pleased. I think people who have liked maybe the delicate notes that come from Westland a little bit will be pleased with this, but it stands. That's kind of what sparked that thought to me. It stands, I think, kind of on its own.
Yeah, that poses a good question for anybody watching this. Like, what American single malts are we missing? Now, we've had, let's see, Starlight did their 10-year. I know Lost Lantern has had some from a few different distilleries. But, yeah, I was kind of expecting, this avalanche of more and more American single malts coming out. Obviously, we love Westward, Westland. A lot of these, just people have been doing American single malt for a long time. But I'd like to see more of them, and I hope people get into them. And I think this is a great way for people to try something because whether you're a Scotch drinker or not, or American single malt drinker or not, I think, the way they blended 2 different finishes on there, it makes a really great drinking bottle. So excited to see that one released. Next up, and then this was, I'll let you chime in as well, but maybe one of the more fun barrel picks we've done. We didn't pick these 2 barrels. These were done by samples, but we visited J. Rieger last year. And the first time I've been to a distillery that one had its own tasting room inside of the barrel, where I don't even know how to describe it. Essentially a huge glass
Fish
box.
bowl.
Yeah, you are in the fishbowl of barrels. Barrels just stacked all around. Really cool experience. They also had a slide. A little bit of everything going on at J. Rieger, but they're also cranking out great whiskey. So we've got super high proof bourbon from them. I believe it ended up at like 152 proof, just something crazy like that. And then
Yeah.
another one of their Kansas City whiskey blends, which I still think are delicious, especially if you lean towards that sweeter side. It's not like old fashioned in a bottle, but it's somewhere between straight whiskey and an old fashioned in a bottle. And this one, what was this Kansas City whiskey finished in? Was this the
Looks
orange
like Echo
curacao?
Lens.
Okay.
No, well, maybe. I thought the last one was the orange curacao. I thought this one was just let me see. I thought this was Cab Sauv or something like that. Let me see if I can pull that up quickly. Yeah, the Kansas City whiskey I thought was really interesting last year, like their monogram. I thought was a really interesting product in general. I think some people are probably turned off in general if it's not doesn't say it's a bourbon or rye. But the Kansas City whiskey itself for them is bourbon, rye, and light corn whiskey, and I believe it's Solera aged.
So this one was actually finished in Cab Franc barrels, which I think adds just another dimension there. Cab barrels may be the theme for the week. We have some Wolves stuff or maybe they said red wine, Jimmy Red in Cab barrels, KC whiskey blend in the KC whiskey blends finished in Cab Franc barrels. And that's, when you're talking about that Kansas City whiskey blend, all those different things build the flavor together, and then it ages in that Cab Franc barrel. And I think that just adds a whole nother layer of flavor, and allows everything to mix and blend well. I think that there's something to when you're blending different barrels together, they need time to marry and, kind of balance each other out. So I'm excited for that one. That'll be a great one. And then we close out the week with a very familiar one, familiar in two ways. So we have the 8-year rum finished bourbon from Bourbon Deluxe. Bourbon Deluxe has been one where we've been flying through it. We've done their 8-year twice, we've done their 16-year once, and we know the Bourbon Deluxe guys from their other brand, Rolling Fork Rum. So seems like the perfect way to collab with themselves by taking some of the Bourbon Deluxe 8-year blend, aging that in rum barrels. And I don't think it's overdone. I know when we were talking before, you're like, yeah, this is just, it's not super rum forward. It's pretty, mellow and mild on the rum side, which is always fun to see.
Yeah, I think people who like Bourbon Deluxe should not be afraid of this. I think they're going to really enjoy it. The rum isn't overdone, so it's very safe if you like rum finished whiskeys, and I think it's going to be just rolling off a little bit of those edges if you already liked Bourbon Deluxe. I think you're going to have another home run here.
Which in this one, I feel like it's like the full evolution of what we do. So it's a blend of two different barrels, a Jamaican barrel, and the bourbon was in there for over 6 months, and then actually, they're both Jamaican barrels, and they're both barrel picks from Seelbach. So one of them was WTRB, which was an 11-year Jamaican rum, and then the other one was ORVW. I'll let everybody just assume what those barrels originally were. So what we did there, just to really carry this long timeline out, would have been 2 barrels that we picked. Rum that went into ex-bourbon barrels was in there for 6 months. Based off of WTRB and ORVW. I'll let you decide what those bourbon barrels originally were. After the rum was in there for 6 months, each barrel got dumped, came to us as a single barrel. Bourbon Deluxe bourbon went back into them for an additional 6 months, and that's the blend we have for you next Friday. So pretty fun to see. We have been doing this a little bit, and it's fun to see the same things popping over again, and just the evolution of the liquid and kind of what it can become over the years when you work with the same producers and suppliers. It's just really cool to see projects like this come to life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those are great rums. So, and again, I want to make sure people understand, don't take this rum finish and say, I hope people see the label and they're like, oh, it's just a darker version of the other one. 'Cause that's essentially what it is. Rum finish. Yes. Really good bourbon. Yes. Long time working with these guys.
So yeah, I mean, it's another stacked week. We'll have to find another adjective to use in future videos other than stacked, or maybe we'll just be honest when we have slow weeks and say, "Hey, it's a little slower this week. There's some fun stuff." But so no, excited to get another one of these videos out, and as always, would love to have feedback. What more information would you like to hear? But excited to see what happens, and should continue another great week of Bourbon Heritage Month. Brian, thanks for
Absolutely.
joining.
And yeah, there's a lot of releases this week. And I'll also say it looks like as of right now, we have a couple that we're doing as text pushes as well. Some of the text pushes do make it to emails and sometimes they don't. So if you're not already on the text list, jump on there. We might have, looks like, if you want me to say, we might be throwing out the pre-sale for Raconteur Rye. And then we have another really interesting product, this Flair bourbon for any of those wrestler fans out there. This collab with this Ric Flair. It's 100 proof. It is from the folks behind 13th Century. We've had a really good track record with a bunch of their different releases. I think that will be a really enjoyable drinker for a lot of folks. And again, some people who just want to be, locked into a leg lock, this might be the best thing if you just hammer the bottle.
I mean, can we say this bourbon puts you in a figure four?
I think you can. I think
or do you want to sound off with a woo or something like that for Rick in honor of Ric Flair? Yeah, also a great one. Which it is funny with some of these celebrity releases, but to me that one's kind of the perfect blend of things where it's like actually it's just really good bourbon at a good price. We love the stuff 13th Century's putting out. And then it's got this celebrity component to it. So it's like, all right, well, even better than if kind of these non-bourbon drinkers are buying it just because of Ric Flair. It's a perfect way to get them into good bourbon and kind of trying out new whiskeys. So I'm excited for that one. That'll be a fun one. But yes, sign up for the text list if you're not already on it. We're still just balancing out everything of what's text, what's email. Most of that's just on availability. So if you don't want to miss anything, make sure you're on both.
Yeah.
Awesome. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.